Okay, this is my a little explainer on the current meta of One Piece, and probably going to be very opinionated on why I hate it. Hopefully, this doesn't get too rambly. op-13, a hate letter. Somebody please save me. Where are all the good decks? Uh, of course, no, it's not working. Okay, so we get into the triangle meta of power creep. So we were just in a great meta with a lot of viable leaders. Um, then op-13 rolls around, and now these three leaders, as if you saw the image that Kevin put in earlier, uh, just dominate the game. And they dominate the game because they're just insanely, insanely strong leaders with insanely, insanely strong cards printed alongside them. Um, I'll get into why each of the leaders are good um, individually, and we'll probably come back and reference these leader slides pretty frequently. So, without further ado, let's get into the first one. That is Red Blue Ace. And this card is this leader is so annoying because in One Piece card game, your life is dictated by your leader, and usually when you have a multicolored leader, um, you're a 4 life leader. You give up one of your life cards, or which work like prize cards in Pokemon. You give one of those life cards up in order to have access to 2 colors at the same time. However, sometimes they print leaders that break these rules, like Ace, for example, who also has 6,000 power, which is 1,000 power above what most leaders are considered to be baseline 5,000 power. So Ace sits at above that, which means that all of your baseline leaders cannot swing into Ace without investing at least 1 mana of their resource. In this game, it's called Dawn. But just know that essentially, to even attack their leader to try and do damage, you have to invest mana. It's very defensive. It's very annoying. Usually, there is a downside to also having 6,000 power as a leader. Uh, Historically, an example is like Whitebeard had an ability that required you to draw a life card at the end of every turn, so you were losing a life no matter what every end step for you, which most people just used as extra card draw, and it became an actual aggressive deck that was just trying to kill you before it ran out of life cards, and eventually it would just have such a big hand that you couldn't kill it when it was about to die anyways. Ace kind of runs the same principle, but he gets access to the best removal in the game, on top of having an extremely defensive leader ability that prevents his what would normally be no counter cards be used as actual counter at least once per turn. So it's really hard to attack Ace just because he also, anytime you kill one of his characters or he takes a damage, he draws a card. So if you take a damage, or if he takes a damage, he draws 2 cards, which essentially gives him 6 life because he gets an extra card every time he takes a damage. Or if you kill one of his characters, which let's get into some of the characters and staples that you'll see in a Red Blue Ace deck. So here's a laundry list of cards, but what we're going to look at is to start with this Marco right here. Marco has a keyword on him that's called blocker, which just means he can interrupt any attack headed anywhere. So he can interrupt attack at leader. It just makes him the target of the attack instead of the character or leader that you attacked in the first place. Marco also says on KO, draw 2 cards. So if Ace chooses to block with a Marco and lets it die, he draws 3 cards. Great. Love that. Love that I can't get around that. He also has access to some of the best searchers and engines in the game in the Whitebeard Pirates package. So we've got the literal printed in a starter deck for support for this deck. Top 5 searcher, which most decks that are good need some sort of searcher just to see consistently what they need to. So not only does Ace have a great defensive leader ability, he negates the downside of having a defensive power setting that requires mana to swing into. He also gets to run extremely greedy cards that don't need counter because his leader ability can make up for it, which means you get to run the best endgame cards in the game. And turns out when you draw a shitload of cards and you get to the endgame every single game, you do pretty good. So what endgame cards do we use to abuse with Ace and getting into the late game? The big three are both versions of the Edward Newgate or Whitebeard. He has two versions. One raises his power, or your leader's power, so he gives you plus 2,000 power. And remember, Ace is a 6,000 power leader, so he goes to 8,000 power base. And then the other is a 12,000 power blocker that draws you two cards, forces you to trash one card from your hand. So it goes net positive on card draw, and then also gives your leader and one character two rested Dawn cards each, just meaning that it essentially, even though it costs 10 to play, it gives you 14 Dawn worth of value because it gives you two rested Dawn on your leader and one of your characters. So it essentially gives you 14 Dawn worth of effect for 10 Dawn. Where that gets even better is you get the I Am Whitebeard event, which can give you, or which will let you play any Edward Newgate from your hand, which means you can play this 10 cost on turn 8, where you only have access to 8 mana through this event. And if you choose to do that, or if you say play the 9 cost Whitebeard, instead, what you'll get is you can also gain plus 2,000 power by taking 1 damage. So you take a damage, you gain plus 2,000 power, you play this 9 cost Whitebeard, you gain another plus 2,000 power. Congratulations, you have a 10,000 power character on board, probably another 10,000 or 12,000 blocker that will draw you cards and fix your hand for you. Or this Gold Roger that says, hey, if your opponent decides to activate blocker, which we're in a blocker format right now, hint, hint, if either you, meaning you, or your opponent, have no life cards remaining, meaning that you have taken all of your prize cards, congratulations, you just win the game. So they literally cannot use blocker anymore, which can let, like, a board full of, if you already have, like, you know, say 2 Edward Newgates on the field, and then you just drop this Roger, well, now they can't block any of these big swings, and they just have to take them. If they don't have the life, well, sorry about your luck. You're just dead. So that's Ace. Play really defensive, draw a lot of cards, ditch a lot of cards for your counter to stay safe in the early game, and then use these big counter events like Radical Beam, removal to get rid of opposing annoying threats. Jozu is like a mid-game option to bounce opposing characters back to hand. He just controls the board early, and then he gets to play these big beefy guys in the late game that power him up, make him really hard to attack. And even if he does attack, congratulations, he's got 9 cards in hand, and he's just going to counter out of every attack that you try to do for him. And even if you do hit him, he gets to draw more cards. Great. So much fun. Glad we did that. So that's Ace. A real pain in the ass deck. I don't like it. I don't think it takes a whole lot of skill to pilot. I think it is very straightforward in its gameplay, and it just sits solely on the shoulders of being a completely broken leader ability on top of having some of the best cards printed in the game, taking up the deck slots for you. So that's Red Blue Ace. So the next leader that is really problematic is printed this set is Black Emu. And if we can go back a couple slides. So Black Emu says that he's a 4-life leader, which normally 1-color leaders, or monocolor leaders as we call them, don't have 4 life. They have 5 life, which is the base. You could see, like, with over here with Zoro, he has 5 life. That's the typical leader. So he's 4 life, which means that he's probably going to have some strong effects in order to offset this reduction in life. The only other example of this would be like Enel, who is a yellow leader with 4 life, and that is just because Enel can heal every single turn. Whenever he takes his last life card, he can discard a card from his hand to heal 1 life. So same kind of concept, very strong leader ability, gives you reduced life initially to reduce the amount of cards you see throughout a game, but you'll see that doesn't matter with Emu. Under the rules of this game, you cannot include events with a cost of 2 or more in your deck. That's not really relevant. You're only running 2 events, and they're both under 2 cost for you because they were specifically made for this deck. Crazy. And then at the start of the game, play up to 1 Marie Joie stage from your deck. So literally at the beginning of the game, you get to just go tutor through your whole deck and put out a stage card for free as long as it has the Marie Joie type. This is stupid. It is literally just one deck slot that you have to give up, which is an extremely small price to pay for the amount of power that these stages can add. The main stage that you play is going to be a 7 cost value. So you literally just get 7 Dawn worth of advantage for free, not accounting for the fact that you didn't have to run any dedication to try and find the stage. You didn't have to run multiple copies of it. You just literally get it at the start of the game every single turn. Batshit crazy, stupid, good effect. And on top of that, he's got an activate main once per turn. You can trash one card with a Celestial Dragon type character, one of your Celestial Dragon characters, or one card from your hand to draw one card. So you can also just cycle cards out of your hand to draw every turn. You're probably going to be doing this every turn unless your hand is already perfectly set, but just the amount of draw and consistency that gives you, being able to cycle the dead cards that you don't need out of your hand every single turn if you need to, or to give up characters that aren't doing anything for you on your board, like searchers, for example, or if you know something's going to die and you've already attacked with it, you can just sacrifice it to gain an extra card. That little incremental advantage can really add up very quickly. So that's why Emu is a very strong leader, and you'll see me refer to his leader effect in that sort of discussion. So, the most insanely overpushed leader to be ever printed in the game, but it does require some skill to pilot well, and I will explain why. We have a very Four Horsemen style game plan. It's centered around assembling the 5 elders of One Piece, and he's very good at this, and we'll just continually keep assembling them through our graveyard and bringing them back through our 10 cost 5 elder card. We talked about the leader ability giving free cycle. We literally banned a leader for 7 sets for this, Hi Sakazuki, because of how good this consistency is, and being able to just set things into your graveyard for free in order to recur them later is stupid good. You also just get one of the best cards for your deck, Tutor to the Battlefield, at the start of every game, just because, we talked about getting the stage at the start of every game. The deck is almost unbeatable late game, and we'll get into why. But essentially, you're going to start looping searcher effects and drawing so many cards that by the time you're reaching the end game phase, getting towards 10 Dawn, you're going to actually be able to know what's coming in your deck and also know the cards that you have left remaining in your life, which is just knowledge that you cannot undercount how much that's worth. It's crazy knowledge. It takes a lot of skill to do this. You really have to be good at memorizing and knowing how you're stacking your deck and what you've seen and used so far, but that is all public information to use, so you can go through your trash at any time. You always know what you're going to have in your hand, and if you can remember well enough, you can know how you stack your deck, so you can remember all the things that you've seen. I'm not big brain enough for that. I don't play this deck, but that's the potential. Let's get into the cards that make this deck tick. So here's the Empty Throne. It's the stage that you're going to be getting 99% of the time, unless you're playing against another Emu and you're in the mirror match. Then you're going to get the other Marijois stage that reduces your Elders cost. And when I say Elders, I mean these 5 gentlemen on the screen right here: St. Marcus Mars, St. Shepard Jupiter, St. J. Garcia Saturn, St. Tommen Mercury, and St. Ethan Baron Venus Juro. These are the 5 elders. They're super important political figures in One Piece. I'm not going to get into the lore of them. Essentially, what these are 5 unremovable creatures that our opponents are going to have a very hard time dealing with. Now, where Emu gets really crazy is you get this 10 cost 5 elders card, and it says if your leader is Emu, you may rest one of your Dawn cards and trash one card from your hand. Trash all of your characters and play up to 5 Elders type characters with 5,000 power and different card names from your trash. So, what does that actually mean? Well, if essentially this stage, the Empty Throne, or this stage, Marijois, lets you play this 5 Elders card not for 10 mana, but for 3 or for 9. So that'll leave you the 1 Dawn free to rest and activate the 5 Elders effect the turn that they come out. Why is this good? Is because all of these 5 elders rare cards, these guys, the individual guys, not the all of them assembled into one, like a Power Ranger. So not the Power Ranger card, but the 5 individuals all come back no matter where they're at. So as long as they're, even if they're on the field, they go to the trash and then they immediately come back. Fucking stupid. So you get all of these effects again, basically. So what do you get just from activating the effect? Well, you get St. Marcus Mars. He lets you trash a card from your hand to KO a base 5 cost, which is a lot of really good characters right now, especially anything in the mid game. So you play him on turn 6, kill one of their characters. Oh, you get to end game, you play this, he goes to the trash, and then he comes back and you kill another one of their characters. Notably, all of these 5 elders have, if you have 7 or more cards in your trash, which is really easy with Emu, this character cannot be removed from the field by your opponent's effects, which means you cannot bounce it, you cannot bottom deck it, you cannot KO it, you cannot do shit to it. The only way you can kill this thing is through kill these characters is through combat, and it's not worth it because guess what? They can just bring them back with the 10 elders again. Holy shit! You can see that just looping the 10 elders just kind of becomes the game plan. So St. Marcus Mars will blow something up. St. J. Garcia searches 5 cards for a 5 elders. St. Todman Warcurry is a blocker. That draws a card on KO. Marcus Mars is also a blocker, even though he KOs something. Then you also have Ethan Barron, who is a rush character, which means he can attack the turn he's played. And he can also give minus 2,000 power to something he's attacking. And Jupiter, instead of making these all 5,000 base power, 5 elders, he says if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, you make them all 7,000 power. Hooray! So now they're even stronger, and they're getting just so much free values worth of Dawn, just for such a minimal cost. I mean, you can literally play this 10 cost Elder off of the stage for 3 Dawn, meaning you still have 4 Dawn, or 6 Dawn left after you activate the effect to do whatever you want with. Play another guy, leave up for counter events, attach to guys to swing for bigger numbers. The world is your fucking oyster, man. It's so crazy. You're constantly digging 5 off of your deck to search for the best card in the top 5. It's ridiculous. You have crazy strong counter events that can also KO cards. You have ways to get rid of the stage if another Emu is greedy and goes for the 7 cost stage. You literally have a counter event that gives you counter plus 4,000. Oh my god, holy shit, that's crazy value. And fucking will also KO a 7 cost stage, so they cannot run this stage against you in the mirror. You have to run the 1 cost stage. It's just a bit crazy. It's really hard to keep up with. No deck that was printed really before this set can keep up with the just crazy snowball value that the 5 Elders package brings with Emu, and Emu is a very consistent and safe leader to get this combo going. So, rightfully deserved as the top spot in the meta. Annoying. Now I get to Mr. Simpleton. This is Green Zoro. I say your dead ancestors can play this deck because it's literally that simple. It's the most power crept deck that was printed up until this most recent set, op-13. It's still got more support in op-13 because why not? But yeah, essentially this is an aggro leader that is good at controlling the board and being aggressive and going for life at the same time, which makes it really hard to survive the early game against this guy. But if you can kind of get your bigger guys out, he kind of loses his steam a little bit. He's not able to attack into some of the higher cost characters in the game or through blockers as well. But the nice thing about Zoro is he can rest characters to attack them to always give him targets. So what Zoro wants to do is put a bunch of Dawn on himself and then attack a character for a really high number, pressure some cards out of hand, and then his leader ability lets him restand, so just set himself as active again, and then you can attack again, reusing that same Dawn that you've invested into Zoro to attack leader or a character with 7 cost or higher. Let's go back to Zoro's leader ability. So yeah, Dawn times 3, activate main once per turn. If this leader has battled your opponent's character during this turn, set this leader as active. Then this leader cannot attack your opponent's characters with a base cost of 7 or less during this turn. So, just wants to attack into your board and then attack your face for big numbers over and over and over and over and over again. And he's really good at this, so he ends up being able to deal with Emu pretty well, and Ace if they happen to not be fast enough or get their blockers up in time. Yeah, and then he's just got restand events to set himself as active multiple times over, and he can really just kind of surprise you with how quickly he can end a game. These are some of the Green Zoro staples. So Luffy is the man who will become king of the pirates. This is just a green event that lets you set your Zoro leader as active, which is really cool. Just gives you another swing for 3 Dawn, pretty cheap. You get probably the best event in the game. The name I'm not going to humor you with. We just call it Dead Man's Game or DMG. Um, Essentially, you can rest 4 Dawn cards to rest 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn cards, or you can use this as a counter event if you're getting a little dicey and you need a defensive out. Um, Cannot understate how good this event is. That 5 Elders combo with Emu that we were talking about previously, stupid that it gets 2 blockers out, but this event for 4 Dawn, you can rest both of those blockers, and suddenly he has a lot less defense available to him. Then you get to Shigi, which is just like a really good 5 cost, comes down, rests to 6 costs or less, and then it also gives 3 Dawn to your leader, so you can use your leader effect right away. Very, very good card. Also just great stats, able to attack very aggressively. Then you have Kuina, you can rest a 4 cost or less, so things like Marco and Ace, and then you have things like the blocker in Emu. One of the blockers is a 4 cost, so you can rest with Kuina. And then also gives 3 rested Dawn cards to your Zoro leader. So also lets you use your leader effect right away. So it's essentially hiding the leader effect cost behind the character cost. Pretty good. Since it rests, it also functions kind of like a pseudo blocker where your opponent has to swing one of their characters or themselves into this. Otherwise, they're just going to let you keep getting that Dawn for free, because even if you don't rest something, you still get the Dawn attached to your leader. Extremely good. Then we go down here to this Roanoa Zoro 4 cost. He's a new card that came from the newest set, along with this Law. These are the 2 new cards that we're running from the new set. But if you have a Straw Hat Crew leader type, he essentially just becomes a 2 Dawn character and just sets 2 of your Dawn as active. So able to leave up some Dawn for defense. You can do a restand event. You can attach that Dawn to your leader to get bigger swings, or activate your leader effect. So very, very strong. And he sets himself as active at the end of every turn, so he's very hard to attack into. He's just very sticky. He's very hard to get rid of, and just constantly applies a lot of pressure, and then is able to keep himself safe by setting himself as active so he can't be attacked. Then you have 5 cost Cavendish, so on play when attacking, if you have no other Cavendish on your field, you can just set 2 Dawn cards as active. Just like this Zoro here, setting Dawn cards as active, it's great because you can get it every single turn, and you attack with them, and then you can even rinse and repeat by using this Law card. So on play, you can return one of your characters to your hand, and then play a character with 5 or less from your hand rested, which means you can play this Cavendish and set 2 more Dawn as active. You can pick up this Tashigi and rest another 6 costs and give 3 rested Dawn or less. If you have a Tashigi in hand already and you want to pick up your Perona Searcher that you used at the start of the game, you can pick up your Perona Searcher and play a Tashigi for free. It's extremely, extremely potent, and then if you get low, down to 1 life or less, it gives you blocker. Then just to kind of complete the package, you get Tashigi and another card that's not pictured here that protect all of your slash, which almost every single character in this deck is a slash type character, or a green character other than Tashigi would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect. You can rest Tashigi or you can rest the other card instead. Extremely, extremely good, very annoying deck, hard to interact with their characters. Can play very defensive, can play extremely aggressive, but the game plan is pretty linear. And again, this deck is pretty simple, pretty straightforward to run. You're just playing your best creatures, which usually is Tashigi or a similar character, a Law, something like that, to just rinse and repeat your leader effect, swing into their characters, reset your leader, swing into their face, and just watch as they keep having to take every single swing. That's the triangle right now. The triangle is annoying, not that fun to deal with, but I have my own answer to the triangle, and it's kind of a sleeper pick this set, but it's gained a little bit of traction, so let's go through what I chose to play. And that is Blue-green Sanji. So I'm going to actively discuss this in real time and bring up cards for you. So just like in Zoro, we have Perona here, which just lets us search for a slash type character. A lot of characters in this deck are slash type. So we've got like counter event cards. So this is just for purely for defense to discard to protect my characters or my leader. We've got the same law that we had in Zoro. So we also use this law. We have this Kid Killer that searches for supernovas, which is about half of our deck ends up being supernovas. We've got this Mihawk that is a 2000 counter, so very defensive card, and also lets us flood the board by playing another 4-cost slash character from our hand when he comes out, as long as we only have 2 or less characters. More 2000 power slash characters. We have Arlong here to help into Zoro by making it so his leader can't attack, which just completely takes away all of the power of the deck and the cards in the deck. Very, very easy way to deal with Zoro is this Arlong card. But that's not all. Well, it's kind of good in Ace, but what else can we use this Arlong for? That's where this guy, Vanderdecken, comes in. He is a 2-cost, and that's important. I'll get to that in just a second. He's a 2-cost that says if you trash a Fishman type card, so that would be Hachan or Arlong or Vanderdecken himself, you can trash a Fishman type card to KO one of your opponent's rested characters. That is any character. So those 10 costs that we saw earlier, I could get rid of them just for this 2-cost. Extremely, extremely efficient, and all it takes is discarding a specific Fishman type card. Okay, that's a lot of words for now. We also have this Restand Zoro, also from Zoro. What's up, buddy? Same thing. He's very good here. He restands Dawn. Couple of new cards, we'll get to those in a second, but let's talk about the leader. So this is Zoro and Sanji. It is a bit of a weird one, but if you have a Dawn on him and you attack, you could return one of your 2-cost characters to your hand and set one of your characters with a power of 7,000 or less as active. So kind of like how Zoro resets himself and is able to attack twice in one turn, I can do that, but I can do that with characters instead. And the cost is I have to return a character to my hand to do that. So essentially we want characters to return to hand that we can abuse their on-play effects over and over to generate card advantage, which is where our searchers come in. So things like this Kid Killer, every time I play him out and then bounce him back to hand, I'm actually gaining 1 card because he's searching 5 for me. And then I get to reuse him. In a pinch, he can also sacrifice himself to set a Dawn as active for my events, which is just Dead Man's Game. So again, to rest those characters, those pesky blockers, and also hidden tech, so you can pay 4 and rest 2 characters that you can then blow up with Vanderdecken, because this is also rest any character. Very, very good. So we have removal for the big decks. We have consistency in searching with Perona and Kid Killer. We've got ways to flood the board with Mihawk. We've got ways to answer Zoro. Well, how do we keep up with this costly engine of having to discard all these cards, play out all these cards? Leader ability is the answer. So we will bounce back these searchers, or this Vanderdecken, or things like this Vivi that let us draw 2 cards, or things like Cavendish that attack and draw us cards when they attack, or Yamato, where they also draw us cards. But not only do they draw us cards, they either unrest Dawn for us to use our leader effect every single turn and get maximum value, but they also can attach a Dawn directly like this Yamato does. So all of that support, super awesome, super helpful. This deck, if you can get down just 1 draw engine set up and your opponent doesn't answer it immediately, so like you establish a Cavendish on your second turn like you want to, it's really, really easy to run away with the game extremely quick, because you're going to be drawing a whole bunch. You can be bouncing your searchers back to hand, looking for every little piece that you need. We haven't talked about this Luffy right here, which is also a very good character. He's got double attack, which means that he gives 2 life points of damage every time that he hits. And he also sets 4 of our Dawn as active. So he's essentially a 2-cost, 7,000 power character for our deck, which is insane. Insanely crazy overstated character for the amount that we pay for him. which lets us do funky things like play a Luffy, then we can also play um, like a Yamato right after it, or we could play a Zoro and then we restand two more, and then we could play like an Arlong, right? You can go crazy and into these big chains, and then you also have this Trafalgar Law that we also had in Zoro to pick up your things like your one cost Peronas, and then you can play out your Yamatos. You can play out a Cavendish. You can play out a Zoro that'll set himself as active at the end of turn, so you don't have to do it with your leader ability. Um, it's just an extremely toolboxy. You're always kind of getting the answers that you need, and you're just kind of adjusting and making little tweaks to your playstyle depending on what deck you're going up against. So, the last card I want to talk about is Charlotte Pudding. She is an absolute necessity in this meta, I think, with Ace running wild because he draws so many cards and is regularly at 9, 10 plus cards in hand. Um, this card functionally reads as like a discard down to 5 by shuffling their hand back into their deck and forcing them to draw a fresh 5. Uh, Very, very underrated card when going for lethal. If they think they're super safe, hiding with a giant amount of cards in hand, you can really throw somebody for a loop by dropping one of these for 4, completely mess their hand up, and maybe they don't even draw any counter left, and you can just clean sweep them from there. This deck is super fast, super aggressive. It draws a shitload of cards. I think I have drawn like 8 or 9 cards in one turn, which in this game is absurd. It's just an absolute blast to play and find the lines to where you're balancing the amount of card draw that you're using on top of your effects, on top of making sure that your board is strong enough uh, to push for lethal into some of these decks that get a little bit bigger. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully this wasn't too long and rambly.